FC Farmer here. Thought I'd bring you guys back in. Doing a little cultivating here in the rain. Yes, it is still raining. I know I said I'd come back when the cultivating was finished. If I pull up the map here, you can see, except for some spots I missed, 16 is cultivated, 6 is cultivated, and I'm working on 5. 5 won't take too long, so I'm just going to go ahead and show this to you guys. Try to bring you in a little more on actual videos, actually doing stuff. One thing I did want to show you, go ahead and fire up the tractor here. Since it's been raining quite a bit, the ground is thoroughly soaked. I've taken the all-wheel drive off, and I'm going to go ahead and get this thing moving. Now this is at cruise control speed 1, which I've been using and usually gets me about 6 miles per hour. That's what it's set at. I'm going 4 right now, and my slip is 39%, 40%, still going up. 50%. It continues here. We're not going to be moving at all. And so, yep, see now it's up over 75%. We're barely moving. 80%, 90%. Well, getting up towards 90%. And you can see our speed, we're below 1 mile per hour. We're barely moving. Okay. So if I let it, it'll drop all the way back down again. Try to go by hand. Got the throttle pinned here. Yeah, and we're barely even moving. Now this, actually let me show you an exterior view here real quick. See those wheels spinning. Now this is with a 3-meter cultivator and a 210 horsepower tractor. Okay. Normally this tractor should have 0 problem pulling this cultivator. So a lot of the reason why we're slipping so much is because of the rain. Now, I'm going to go ahead, put that back down, put all-wheel drive on this time. Hit 1 again, same speed. Now you notice we're moving along right about 6 miles per hour, around 7% slip. And we're moving along normally. So, the effect of rain, and especially the effect of all-wheel drive. A lot of times, all-wheel drive is not going to seem necessary during the game. But when you start to get rain is when you really start to see it become very helpful. So I wanted to show you guys that, and then also what I'm going to do is go ahead and finish cultivating this field. And I'll go ahead and do it on screen, show you guys some more. One way I look at it, and I've kind of changed or decided to do stuff maybe a little different. The way I looked at it, the season for me moves along at about the same pace. I mean, I still have to do all this work whether I do it on screen or off screen. Now, if I do a lot of the work off screen, that means less videos for you guys, and you can get through this first season of Saturday on the Farm a little quicker. But some people really like to see the videos and see what's happening. So I'm going to go ahead and make more videos. I'll probably make 2-part episodes so that we can get a little bit more work done. I can show you guys a little bit more, especially with us picking up that other field 20. There's going to be more work to do, more on-screen stuff. So I'll try to do a little bit more on screen, let you guys see what's going on. Also, since our farm's growing, we have 4 fields now. When we get to this harvest, I think we'll start to use some helpers. Now, when it comes to preparing the fields, a lot of that I'm still going to do by myself. Until we really start to get some more fields and some of the bigger fields, I'll be able to do a lot of that work myself. It takes time, but it's really not that bad. The harvest, as we get more fields and we're harvesting more, I want to keep that harvester moving, not have it running over to a trailer to offload all the time. So what we'll probably do is use a course-play course and have him unload the harvester. So we'll start to use some helpers. Luckily this field here, not very wide. It's a longer field. So it won't take too much longer to finish up cultivating. Now this field, I've cultivated a little bit differently than I have before. And I'm trying to do it because I think that's really the way that you would do it in real life, or closer to the way you would do it in real life at least. I'm cultivating in what you would consider the middle of the field, I guess. I'm not doing the headlands at this point. And that's because you spend a bunch of time driving over those headlands, turning around and all that stuff. And you're compacting that soil. And soil compaction is one of the big factors that can reduce yield. That's why you see a lot of tractors with double tires and things like that. They're trying to spread the tractor's weight out over a larger area to reduce the soil compaction. So, although it really makes no difference in the game, the game doesn't simulate soil compaction at all. I'm trying to pretend, I guess, that that's what we're doing. So, we drive over the headlands and the soil there is going to become compacted, but this field is basically how we left it after we harvested. So the soil has already been compacted throughout the growing season and the rains and all that kind of stuff. So any extra compaction we do won't be too big of a factor. And then after we finish up all the stuff in the middle of the field, we'll go do the headlands and we'll tear all that soil up and get it all loosened up. And then we'll pretty much drive off the field. So you're not going to have large areas of the field that you cultivated and then drove all over, just compacting the soil again. So that's, I think, what we're going to do. I'll try to kind of do it like that. Again, it's not a factor which really plays in the game, but just a little imagination and trying to play the game in as realistic a manner as I can. And again, really what I want to do, especially with this first season of Saturday on the Farm here, is to show you guys the more realistic mod and differences that it makes in the game and why, in my opinion, it's one of the best mods that has come out for Farming Simulator 2013. Actually, I went back the other day and tried to play a game. I was kind of exploring some options for Season 2. And so I started playing a little bit on a game without the more realistic mod. And oh my gosh, I had to stop. I couldn't do it. Going back and playing without the more realistic mod is just so different. In that game, the reason I was exploring the option of playing without the more realistic mod for Season 2 was because there's so many good mods that are not converted to more realistic, and I don't have the time to record Saturday on the Farm episodes and convert 100 mods to more realistic. It's not that hard of a process, but it's time consuming, and the biggest part of it is trying to find realistic or actual real life information on all these implements and tractors and everything like that. So I was exploring the option of playing without the more realistic mod, but once I started playing it, downloading some of the mods and terrible driving physics and all that, I decided I just couldn't do it. And I also, at least in some of the seasons, want to get into animals. To get into animals, you really need to be able to handle bales. Now, it's not absolutely necessary. There are other ways you can do things without the bales, but the bales present a really good way to collect your straw or hay because they store nicely. You can stack them and they store up. Well, if you've played Farming Simulator 2013, you know that in the normal game, the bale physics are just all out of whack. They're crazy. Bales are jumping all over the place, sliding around. They seem to have no weight in the game. And I actually remember one episode by, I think, Stocko, and he collected a bunch of bales and dumped them in his farmyard in central Kansas, and was using his harvester with its big head to play what he called bale hockey, and just was trying to shove the bales into the sell point. And he would stop pushing it, and the bale would slide on for 30, 40 feet. And, you know, it was just real ridiculously unrealistic. I've played with the more realistic mod, and the bale physics are so much better. You can actually, when you're messing with bales with the more realistic mod, it seems correct. The bales seem to have weight. They feel like they have weight. You can notice it kind of pushing down on the front of your front load tractor and things like that. So, and when you stack them, they stack pretty well. They tend to stay there. So, that was another part of it. So I think for Season 2, we're going to continue to play with the more realistic mod. We won't focus nearly as much on all the aspects of the more realistic mod and how it changes gameplay. We'll just focus on playing. So that's the plan for right now, at least. The other reason I was going to possibly do without the more realistic mod is because this newest version of the more realistic mod that I'm running, it's still sort of in beta testing, but Dural's released it fairly widely for people to try out, find all the bugs and everything. Well, he made some fairly big changes, and it no longer would work with the most recently released version of Courseplay. And I'm a big Courseplay fan. I really like to use it quite a bit. So that just wasn't going to work. I needed Courseplay, especially for some of the maps that I want to try to play on. They're bigger. You need Courseplay. So I'm not going to play multiplayer. It's all going to be single player. So I need to have helpers, and the helpers that you're able to hire in the game just aren't going to cut it. They can't do enough. You know, they have no ability to transport grain to a sell point or anything like that. So needed Courseplay. So now I've downloaded the developer version of Courseplay, which is working okay. I think we're going to be able to play with the more realistic mod and that version of Courseplay. I think everything will be okay. It is a developer version, so we'll have to expect that we're going to run into some problems, and I already have, but I've worked around them. So that's what we're going to do. Because honestly, driving some of those mod vehicles without the more realistic mod was just insane. I just couldn't do it. One mod, I can't remember which one it is now, but it takes like 20 seconds. And I'm not really exaggerating. It does take almost 20 seconds to accelerate to 20 miles per hour. And then it accelerates from 20 miles per hour to 40 miles per hour in the next like 2 seconds. So it takes forever for you to get going, and then all of a sudden you're going 40. You jump from 20 to 40 in almost no time. So I was just like, this isn't gonna work. So after playing around with it and testing and trying to decide if that was going to be the way to go for Season 2, I decided that no, that was not going to be the way to go for Season 2. So, here I am talking about Season 2. We're not even that far into Season 1. We'll see how many episodes we run. I want to run around 20 or so, which means that right now we're not even halfway through Season 1. I think 20 is a pretty good number. We should be able to get through, that'll get us through multiple harvests. We should be able to build up some money. We'll see where 20 episodes puts us as far as how many fields do we have, how have we built up our farming empire here, and all that, and we'll decide at that point. I can certainly go more than 20 episodes. We'll just have to see. One thing we certainly have to do, as I was looking through my finances earlier, we definitely have to pay off the loan, and I'm thinking that should be really one of our next goals, is to pay off the loan, because I don't like to have debt hanging over my head. We pay off that loan, and then any money we make is ours to keep. So, ooh, really slipped in there. There we go. So I think that's going to be one of our priorities, is to go ahead and pay off that loan. I think it's $150,000, so it's pretty substantial. We're not going to try to pay all of that off before we buy more equipment, but I am going to try to pay some of it off. So once I get this field cultivated, we will have cultivated all of our fields. At that point, I think we might get rid of this particular cultivator, because by the next time I come around to cultivate these fields, I very much want to have a cultivator. So I'm trying to think what's coming up. Obviously we're going to have to fertilize these fields and seed them. I have a pretty good seeder. We bought that in the last episode. The sprayer, well, it's actually a fertilizer spreader, but it works just fine. And since there's really no difference between liquid and solid fertilizer, we'll probably keep that. I don't really see any reason to upgrade that at this point. We really won't need to upgrade that until we get into some bigger fields. Yep. We have harvesting equipment. The harvester we have, there's no really need to buy anything for that. The trailer we use for harvesting is sufficient. Anything bigger than that, and we're really going to need another tractor, a bigger tractor, just to be able to transport it to sell points. So I really think our next piece of equipment is going to be a bigger cultivator, and those aren't incredibly expensive. So I think, you know, we figure out what cultivator we want, and we have that, or we have the money to buy that, and I can start to use whatever extra money we have to pay off some of the loan. So I think that's the plan. Before we get too far into this season, if we really start to get more fields and bigger fields, we're gonna most definitely have to look into a better harvester. I really like that harvester. It's just not very big. The head on it's like 5.2 meters or something like that, and it only has a 7,000 liter grain tank. Start to get to some of these fields, they're pretty big. That's just not, it's not going to cut it. So But that's really going to depend on how this season starts to unfold. If we really decide that we don't have the money to start investing in more fields, there's really not a reason to get a bigger harvester. So, and really, whoops, I wanted to be on the map. There aren't a whole lot of smaller fields left. 5 and 6 I already own. Just got 20 in an auction. There's another one over there, I think field number 19. It's not too bad. But other than that, you start to get into some of the fields that are quite a bit bigger. So if we do start to expand, that's going to be a bigger harvester is really going to be on our near the top of our list. As far as bigger harvesters go, really the only one I have right now that's converted to more realistic is the Class 770, and it costs like $300 and some thousand, and then the Vario 1200 grain header for it, which is a 12-meter grain header. That would be pretty awesome, but that costs, I don't know, like another $65,000 or something. So talking a pretty good chunk of change to be buying that thing. But that's down the road. We gotta start to get into the season a little more before we're gonna be able to think about that. This next round of harvest, though, I'm really looking forward to, because we made a pretty good chunk of change on that last harvest. We were only running 3 fields, and we had canola and corn. And the corn, we didn't even fertilize it. Now this time, I've got plenty of money to be able to fertilize everything. So I feel like we're going to have a pretty good harvest. And I think we made like $200 and some thousand last time. So we should be able to make, thinking even more than that, maybe close to $300,000 on this harvest. And we could do a lot with $300,000. So, but don't count your chickens before they're hatched, as the old saying goes. One thing that I haven't really figured out completely is the effect that the price changes are going to have. The newest version of this more realistic mod, the 10x multiplier is gone. So now, instead of making what, I don't remember what exactly the prices were, but that 10x multiplier is gone, basically. Now if I pull up the PDA, the price you see is the price you're going to sell it for. And I believe that price is actually a little bit lower than what it was with that 10x multiplier on it. So if we're selling our grain for a little bit less, I don't know, we're going to have to see how that works out. But that 10x multiplier affected a lot more than just the sell prices for grain. It also affected seed prices, the price for the seed that you needed to plant the fields. It affected fertilizer prices. So now it's not going to cost me $17,000 to fertilize field 5 and 6. We saw that when we used or fertilized for that winter wheat. It only cost us like $1,700, or maybe it was $1,300, I forget. But it was about 10 times less than what it was with the older version of the more realistic mod. So, without that huge fertilizing cost, I think you know, there's more money that we get from selling the grain stays in our pockets and all that. So, but we'll see how it works out. I didn't really have much to compare on at this point yet because we hadn't sold any, or we had sold some wheat. I hadn't kept track of what we had sold. So I didn't really have much to compare on. After this next harvest, when we sell corn and canola again, I'll be able to compare directly how much we make per hectare and get a good comparison. See how this newest version of the more realistic mod changes things. So we're going to go ahead and knock out this headland here. Right, find the corner of the field. There it is. Again, just trying to do as much as I can to stay within the boundaries of the field. Alright, pop this way. Gotta put it in forward first if you want to go forward. Yep. So now, if this was real life, this ground that I've driven over lots of times, we'd be loosening that back up. That's the idea. I'll make sure we get all the way into these corners here. I hope you guys are enjoying the videos. If there's something you really don't like, something that you would like to see me do, just leave a comment, let me know. I'm very open to suggestions. This is the first thing I've really ever recorded as far as gaming and put it on YouTube, so I am very much open to suggestions. You guys are the ones watching it, so let me know what you like to see and I'll try to accommodate it. Some stuff, you know, I'm definitely willing to listen to your guys' suggestions. At the end of the day, though, I do have to enjoy playing it. If I don't enjoy playing it, it's not going to be very fun to watch. So, if anybody has any suggestions for a map you would really like to see in Season 2, go ahead and let me know. Take a look at them. I want something that runs well. I want, you know, something without a lot of problems. I've come across a lot of mod maps that just have quite a few problems, and I really don't want to be dealing with lots of problems. Also, because I kind of have a set of mods downloaded, I'm always out there looking for more, but any mod map that is multi-fruit, I'm gonna have to go out there and find multi-fruit compatible, and not just multi-fruit compatible mods, but ones that actually are compatible with the specific multi-fruits on the map. So while I'm not completely against a multi-fruit map, I'm gonna be a little more hesitant to pick that because I have to go back in and make sure, for instance, that my harvester is going to be able to handle new fruits, and that I have trailers that are going to be able to handle the new fruits. And all of the stuff that Doral converted, basically the base game equipment that he converted to more realistic, is, well, I'd have to check on that. I'm not sure that he edited them to work with newer fruits. So while he converted the more realistic engine itself to handle multi-fruits, as far as prices and things like that, I'm not sure about the vehicles. But even at that, I try to play with as many true mods as I can, and a lot of the mods out there just are not multi-fruit compatible. The people that tend to make the mods multi-fruit compatible only have in mind certain newer fruits. It's not like they're out there making them compatible with every possible fruit that can come out. So I've seen some multi-fruit compatible ones that have a couple new fruits like oats or sorghum or something like that, but a lot of times you'll get maps that have other crops like soybeans or all these things. So it's not a huge pain, but then that requires me going in, editing XML files, making it multi-fruit compatible. It just takes a lot of time. So if you have some maps that really just stick to the main fruits or only add one or two new fruits, then I would definitely be willing to take a look at those. I've been exploring map options. I still really like East River, West River, South Dakota. The problem is it is gigantic. And I've been playing one of my just other save games on there, kind of exploring the map, getting familiar with it, and all that. It really is just huge. So if I do that one, there's going to be a lot of time spent doing work that'll probably be off screen, because I've harvested some of the fields on there, and it takes about 5 to 6 hours of real time playing to harvest just one, mind you, of your starting fields. And what you actually start with about, I'd say probably 10 fields or 12 fields. And wow, they probably total. Now, this is in-game size, like what the game engine itself actually recognizes as the field size, not what comes up when you go to buy the field is the field size. But the first two fields you own put together total like 30 hectares of in-game size. I think it lists them when you go to buy them as like 160, but what gets listed when you go to buy a field, you can just edit that to say whatever you want. It's not truly what the game recognizes as the field size. So I found sizes of those fields out by just harvesting them and seeing what the PDA statistics said I had harvested. So again, just those two fields that are right next to your farm, 30 hectares. Then you own like 8 or 10 other fields that almost all of them are bigger than those two. And a couple of them are like twice the size of those two. So you're talking just huge fields that's going to take, literally hours of real-time gameplay to harvest. Now, the nice part is you're talking about huge harvests. I think just from the one field that's planted in corn, I harvested like 250,000 liters of corn. So you go sell that. What's the corn price here? The highest price right now, $8.68. Talk about 250,000 liters. That's about 200 tons at $800 a ton. That's a pretty good payday. It doesn't take very long to make money in that one, just by harvesting the few fields, or some of the fields you start with, even not even all of them. You already have quite a bit of money in the bank. So now, if I do decide to use that map as our next season, I'll change the starting parameters. I won't start with quite so many fields. Okay, enough about Season 2. Let's talk about this season, the one we're actually in right now. So there you go. Field 5. It says I missed a little corner there. Some of that, I think, is the straw that gets discharged that I just didn't cultivate under because it's off the side of the field or something like that. So, field 16, obviously corn doesn't discharge any straw, so that I just sucked at cultivating. Also, I decided, because around here where I live, there's always drive-ins to the fields. All these fields are surrounded by grass. So I decided to cultivate out a little bit of the grass. Now this is my drive-in for the field. And when I come to this field each time, I'm going to use that drive-in. Another just little factor. Try to enhance the realism a little bit. So, we're done cultivating. We're going to head back to the farm. I'm curious to see how we do by the end of this season, whenever it is that we decide to call this season an end. How much we can build up, what kind of equipment we can upgrade into, and then I'm going to have to decide how I want to do transitioning to different seasons. If I want to try to carry over some stuff from the previous season, or if I want to just start fresh. So if you guys have any feelings about that, let me know. One thing we are going to do, and I just about forgot, is we are going to sell this cultivator. This little 3-meter cultivator, it's sort of outlived its utility. I'm going to need something bigger. Probably don't need something bigger, but I really want something bigger. It just takes a while to do these fields with this thing. Alright, drop it down. Unhook. And here we go. So let's see what we can get for selling that guy. And it's still raining. Just a rainy day. Alright, $5,400. Yep. Well, not much. While we're here, let's go check out some other cultivators. Now, since we won't be cultivating again for a number of episodes, I will have probably added some new cultivators by the time we go to look at new cultivators. So, but let's go ahead and take a look. Get down to MR stuff. So that's the one we just had and sold. This is the same size, so obviously we're not going to look into that. This Horse Joker, 6-meter width, so it doubles up what we had. It still is pullable by the tractor we have. Although, on some of the steeper fields, we may run into some issues. This guy, a little less width than the Joker, 5.5 meters. Horsepower requirement 150 to 200. So that's doable. If we get up into these guys, then we're gonna have to get a more powerful tractor. So I'm thinking that right now these are probably off the table. But 7.5 meters, 300 to 450 horsepower, a 6-meter guy, 300 to 550 horsepower. And this one, which is 7.8 meters, which is the widest of the stock game cultivators, 350 to 600 horsepower. So basically, if we want to get into these, we're looking at one of the Steigers, basically. Here's an old classic one. These are just some of the mods that I've gotten. 12-meter working width. That would be pretty nice. It doesn't say a horsepower requirement, but if whoever modded it, if they did it correctly, a 12-meter width cultivator is going to require quite a bit of power. This is the Joker, so it's like this Joker 6 CT, but double the width. So you figure if this requires 150 to 200 horsepower, This one, you're going to be looking at probably 450 plus. A John Deere 2310. This is another one I actually picked up somewhere. Somebody had converted it. Nope, never mind. That's one that I converted. I get these two confused because I have another one, 2410. This is the one that somebody else converted. So 43 feet. I'd have to do some calculations to figure out exactly how wide that is, but it's pretty wide. It's like 12 meters, somewhere around in there. Pretty wide. We're not going to get any of these. These are sort of vintage equipment, and they're all pretty small. This is a little bit wider version, the one we were just using. 6 meters, 200 horsepower. Not very expensive. And this one, 9 meters, that's going to require a pretty powerful tractor to pull. This is the one that I converted myself. There's actually 2 power requirements listed. I found, for as wide as this thing is, 11.5 meters, and it's pretty heavy, pulling a lot of tines through the ground and everything. To be pulled by a 150 horsepower tractor seemed a little ridiculous to me. So I actually set it up so that it requires about 400 horsepower to pull it. So if you talk about just base game tractors that Doral converted to MR, none of the what you consider normal style tractors, non-articulated tractors, are able to pull it. The highest you get is 310 horsepower, and I actually, when I set it up, tested it with this to make sure that this could not pull it. Or it might be able to pull it just barely, but either way. So you really do have to step up to one of the Steigers or the quad track to be able to pull it. So that's what we'll look at for cultivators, I think. That will probably be the next piece of equipment we buy. But we're not going to buy it now because we don't need it right now. So we're going to hop back in the tractor, get back to the farm, and then we'll call this episode over. In cab, give me some lights, turn on the beacon, make sure it's on. Oh yeah. I'm not as crazy about my beacons as Stocko, but I like to have them on when I'm driving on the roads. In the next episode, I'll probably make it a 2-parter. We'll go around, fertilize the fields. They'll be ready for planting, and then we'll go through and plant them. So, that'll be the plan. And then after that, there'll be kind of a long break until it's harvest time. Because there's not really going to be any work for us to do. Okay, and one less piece of equipment. Let's pull in here. So the nice part is that big field number 16 that we have, that's going to be planted with canola on this round of planting, which means we'll get to use the Amazon Cayena 6000, which has a 6-meter working width, instead of that monosem, whatever, turn the lights off, corn planter over there, which is only a 4-row corn planter, which is like a 3-meter working width or something. So that'll be good. Take a quick look at the map. So this is what I was talking about, field 19. Now field 19 is considerably bigger than field 20, but mainly because it's longer. Other than that, once you start to get into other fields, you're really going to need to get some bigger equipment. If we buy 19, we will have snatched up pretty much all of these small fields. And since we already own 20 now, 19 I might consider buying. So we'll take a look and see how much it is. I'm not going to buy it right now, obviously, but so at 87.9, that would be buyable before too long. So we'll think about it. But until next time, when we will be fertilizing and seeding, this has been FC Farmer. I'm going to stay inside my shed here because it's raining with your Saturday on the farm, playing Farming Simulator 2013. Until I see you next time, enjoy.